Chris Scalzo here with
Matt Howell.
And this morning on Fresh Air First Run. See, we're recording this show on Sunday morning, and I was thinking about trying to do the whole episode, Matt, as a PBS thing. But then I realized no one's going to be listening to it live at 10 a.m. on a Sunday morning, really. I mean, maybe they will. Well, not live, but maybe they will. So maybe we could run with the PBS thing. And I tried thinking about doing it as a James Mason thing, too, but my James Mason is really, really bad. So I scrapped that. So I guess we can just... Now that I've blown up my own joke, we can just move on. This week on the first run, Matt and I are going to discuss They Who Live in the Shadows, or We Who Live in the Shadows.
What we do in this.
What we do. I can't get it right. First, it's What We Do in the Dark, which is what I called it for like 2 weeks straight, which I think could be an entirely different film. But yeah, so it's what we, and the great part is I have it up right now in front of me on my screen. What We Do in the Shadows, but I can't be bothered to look at it. So. I'm talking about that movie starring, and I'm gonna nail this. Taika Waititi. Taika. Professionals would have sounded that out and got the phonetic spelling ahead of time. And then Jermaine, Clement, who we're both big fans of, with from Flight of the Conchords initially. So we'll talk about What We Do in the Shadows. We'll talk about something Matt suggested, an animated film called "It's Such a Beautiful Day," which, well, we'll get into that. And then what's coming up on Blu-ray and DVD, and featuring I'm going to kind of rerun a straight to DVD, a Netflix viewing thing, what you should be streaming this weekend, because it ties in to the Blu-ray picks. And then we'll have our straight to DVD pick of the week. And then finally, the return of What Are the Odds? And we'll explain what all that is when we get into it, though. But first, What We Do in the Shadows. That's it, right? What We Do in the Shadows.
Good job.
What We Do in the Shadows.
Let's go! It's been like this the whole time, Deacon, on dishes, and it still hasn't moved in 5 years. You're a cool guy, but you're not pulling your weight in the flat.
Oh, well, I'm glad to hear that I'm cool.
No, that's not the point, though.
Yeah,
You're missing
I
the
know.
point.
Not
I know.
a flat meeting about how cool you are.
When you get 3 vampires in a flat, obviously there's going to be a lot of tension.
Viago was an 18th century dandy.
A ghost cop. Vladislav is a bit of a pervert.
This is my torture chamber.
Deacon's like the young bad boy of the group.
I'm supposed to pay rent, but I don't.
The trouble with being a vampire is you have to be invited in.
Come into the bar, please.
Will you invite us in? We need some fresh blood.
Hi, my name is Nick. I've been a vampire for 2 months. My friend Richie's a bouncer. He'll invite us in.
Gentlemen, you are most welcome.
Nick is so much fun.
I'm a vampire.
Such a dick.
Nick, why don't you use the front door?
You want to draw attention to this house,
You've got a whole documentary crew following you around.
So, Matt, What We Do in the Shadows. I'm going to be honest with you. I was skeptical. I like Jermaine Clement. I don't know Taika Waititi. Got it. I'm not familiar with any of his work at all, but I was skeptical. I know it's a comedy, but any listener to this show knows I'm done with vampires, right? I'm tired of them. It's my hatred for the whiny, emo, lovelorn vampire. And I want my vampires to be scary. I want them to be horror icons again, instead of just sitting in the shadows or hiding in a corner, crying in a fetal position because somebody doesn't love them. So having a comedy version of something like that, I'm like, I don't know. But it's Jermaine Clement. It's got a really high score on Rotten Tomatoes. Let's check it out. So, Matt, let me ask you, What We Do in the Shadows. So it's kind of a mockumentary, kind of in the MTV Real World style. You're meshing in vampirism, I guess. With this. Basically, does it work? Because I feel like this thing could go off the rails rather quickly.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I kind of gave it the benefit of the doubt. I mean, obviously, mockumentaries are kind of like found footage films. They can have the potential to be really not good. But I thought this one, they really committed to kind of the whole premise and their characters, and I would say the jokes land, more often than they don't. So I thought it was a really enjoyable little film.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you. I think that I loved too how they kind of mess a little bit with the genre. They kind of, because you got Coppola's Dracula, Gary Oldman. You kind of have that character. You have Nosferatu shows up, and then kind of a Lestat Louis type thing as well. Everything kind of comes together with these little ridiculous relationships. And then you have just a dusting of Twilight, I think, in there as well, with the melodrama and how over the top ridiculous some of it may be. But I think for me, so yeah, I was consistently laughing throughout, which I guess is what you're looking for in a comedy, right? And that's always the basic question, right, with comedies. Did it make you laugh? Right. And it did. And you're right too. Mockumentaries can run along with the found footage stuff a little carefully. I think Christopher Guest and his crew has really nailed that whole thing, except for I think for the last one or two, I wasn't as much of a big fan of. But it is consistently funny throughout. I think it turns the whole MTV Real World thing on its head, and I think it works great. And then they factor in the vampire mythos. I think it's very smart about that, and it's not mean about it at all. I don't know how you could really be mean about it, but it's not really mocking it as much as it is just enjoying it. It honors that whole vampire mythos as much. That's why I say that, because I feel like if Espo watched this film, he would like it.
Yeah, I agree. I think they definitely understand their source material, and they have a very intimate knowledge of kind of all of the ins and outs of it. And I think they kind of walk that line of paying homage and respect to it, but also kind of winking at some of this stuff is pretty ridiculous. And some of the gags they really hit. I think I liked the I liked the part. I liked what's his name? What's his name?
Sure. Taika Waititi.
Yeah, that's it. I like how Waititi he just seemed incapable of killing anyone in any kind of not messy way, which was I thought hilarious for his character. But and not all of it does it. I thought it kind of did start to kind of drag a little towards the end there. It still was pretty good towards the end, but when they started introducing the whole werewolf stuff, I thought that was kind of hokey for a little bit. But I think they definitely understand their material. I think they have a genuine affection for it, and they just kind of tweak it for a little bit of, hey, we still like this stuff, but we understand that it's also kind of ridiculous, and we're having fun with it.
Yeah, exactly. I like the stuff too with the Nosferatu, the Peter character.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed the relationship with him, and I'd have to disagree with you, though. I think maybe it does get a little weak at some points. I actually really enjoyed the encounters with the werewolf pack. I don't know if it's because I love Rhys Darby so much. Yeah. But I really did enjoy the stuff with the werewolf, what is it from the Jets and the what do you call it? Anyway,
the Jets and the Sharks.
Yeah, exactly. I kind of had that feel to it. The two different gangs run into each other in the park. Yeah, they got to calm each other down. But I love we're not swearwolves or werewolves. I don't know. I just really, really enjoyed Rhys Darby and that. And I should say too, if any new listeners to the show should know, when I say Espo, it's a friend of ours who used to actually co-host the show when it first started for about 1.5 years. And he has a very strong love for all the vampire-related stuff. But he's in the Twilight camp. He's very much an Anne Rice, Interview the Vampire kind of guy.
Yeah.
That's why I feel like anybody who's in that kind of camp would still be able to enjoy this film and not be, well, they can't say that because this and that, and vampires can only do this. And, you're not any crazy fanatics. You're going to still be fine. You're going to really enjoy it, I think.
Yeah, as long as you have a bit of a sense of humor about your subject matter.
Which, geek fans tend to always do.
Yeah.
No, they don't. Not at all. So, I don't know, what are you going to recommend for the kids in at home?
Yeah, I thought it was very, very enjoyable. Even if you have if you have a hatred of all things vampire, if you're just completely burned out, I think you'll enjoy this film. I mean, it kind of looks at some of the more ridiculous aspects and kind of takes some of the bits of the vampire mythos to their extremes, which I think is really entertaining. And if you do like it, you'll enjoy the kind of all the little nods and little nooks that they kind of uncover and they understand, to people who really, really know a lot about vampires, which they'll enjoy too. So I think it's something that everybody should check out.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a lot of fun. It's very funny. You can watch it right now on iTunes and on demand. I'm sure it'll hit Netflix in the next month or so, probably. So if you get a chance, you should definitely check out What We Do in the Shadows. If I had to give it a grade, I always try and come back to this. I would probably give it a B. I think it's strong enough for me to give it a nice solid B.
Yeah.
So.
I'd say B plus. Actually, I think I enjoyed a lot of it.
Fantastic. Good for you. Mm-hmm. I'm sure they'll appreciate it. That's going to go on the box, I think.
It is. Well, I mean, I think when the next time we look at Rotten Tomatoes, we should see a little comment. I think I'd give it a B plus.
You're very enthusiastic. If you had a chance to see What We Do in the Shadow, shoot us an email at feedback@thefirstrun.com. Matt, Blu-ray and DVD picks. It's been a desert for like 2-3 weeks, so they're finally kicking back in the gear. I'm going to tell you what's coming up on August 4th. That's Insurgent, the franchise that just still chugging along, though people don't seem to go to the theater and watch it. Includes, but you know what it is, though? It does have a lock for us. First run favorite, he says sarcastically, Jay Courtney is in this series. So
he is.
There's a 3D Blu-ray and a regular Blu-ray version as well. If you get it from Best Buy, Matt, you can get it a steel book. If you get it from Target, it includes a fabric poster and 45 minutes of extra stuff on a DVD, and they have their own special case. And in Walmart, you can get the first film and the second film together in a 2-pack. Includes audio commentary with the producers, and I don't care. Child 44. Listen, Matt, this was one of my most anticipated films of the year, Child 44, because we all know of my affection for Tom Hardy, who should be the next James Bond. Mm-hmm. It's got Gary Oldman, Noomi Rapace, a planned trilogy about a cop in Russia, the Soviet Union, as the Soviet Union falls, but kind of dealing with all the red tape and stuff of living in a country where murders just don't happen. That's a Western problem. And the years that pass as they try to find this serial killer of children, it is horrible. It is. I can't tell you how bad this film is. It's such a disappointment. So Child 44, do not waste your time. But what I'm really interested in is The Salvation. Have you heard of The Salvation?
No, I have not.
Badass Mads Mikkelsen plays. It's basically just it's a Western revenge tale starring Mads Mikkelsen. And if you don't remember Mads, he played the bad guy in Casino Royale. He's in a bunch of other great films. He was in Valhalla Rising, which I liked a lot, from Nicholas Winding Refn, though I don't think you were as much of a fan of that.
It was okay.
So, but yeah, and it's got Eva Green as well, and it's just a blood-soaked Western revenge tale. If you're in that market, which I always am, you should check that out. True Story, the film starring Jonah Hill and James Franco. I guess Franco plays a killer who uses the identity of the writer Michael Finkel, played by Jonah Hill, and he's the only one that'll grant him an interview. That's being released. Not terribly good from what I hear, but you get to see Franco, who's always at least hopefully interesting in his roles. Includes an alternate ending and some deleted scenes about from a bunch of other stuff. Far From the Maddening Crowd, with starring Carey Mulligan, is being released on Blu-ray as well. Matt, did we ever talk about The Nightmare?
No, I don't believe so.
I feel like it's from Rodney Archer. He's the guy that did Room 237, that documentary about The Shining.
Yep.
Well, this is his latest one called The Nightmare. He talks to a group of people who have sleep paralysis because they're having this nightmare. But it turns out and this is documentary, that they all have the same nightmare, basically. There's the same character that shows up. The shadow men, these ghostly shadow men show up in each one of them. And these people don't know each other. And so it's a documentary about examining what that is. Is it some kind of primordial reptilian brain thing that we do, or is it actually a ghost or something that visits these people? So it's a documentary about that. It's supposed to be relatively interesting. So if that hits Netflix, I think I'll definitely watch it. Orphan Black Season 3 is being released. What I love about this show, Matt, is that I have Seasons 1 and 2 on Blu-ray because I've heard that we were so good. I've had them for over a year, 2 years at least for Season 1. Have yet to watch it.
There you go.
But I hear it's really good.
Yeah, I mean, people love it. I hear that Tatiana Maslany, I believe is her name. I may be butchering her last name, but she's puts on a great performance in all of her characters. You know, since she plays a series of clones, which I don't think I'm giving anything away. But she kind of each one is an individual, so it's a real acting showcase for her. Heard lots of gushing from the geek websites, and I've had it in Netflix because you can watch it on Netflix, and it's like every time I look at it, I'm like, I'm not quite ready to watch that yet, and I'll move on to something else.
That seems to be the same way for me.
Yeah.
I've had them for a while, but the moments never hit me like, man, I want to watch this tonight.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather just watch, Schwarzenegger. I'll watch The Running Man for the 5th time instead.
Shows where our priorities are.
I really got to rethink my decisions.
Yeah.
New to Blu-ray, Criterion is giving us Night in the City. Two-bit hustler Harry Fabian, played by Richard Widmark, longs for a life of ease and plenty. Trailed by an inglorious history of go-nowhere schemes, he tries to create a lucrative plan with a famous wrestler. But there's no easy money in this underworld of shifting alliances, bottomless graft, and pummeled flesh. And Fabian soon learns the horrible price of his ambition. Includes a new 4K digital restoration. Alternate presentation of the 101-minute British version of the film is included as well. So if you want to check out Night in the City, now's your big chance on Blu-ray. Inner Space, Blast from the Past, and Free Willy, all getting released on Blu-ray for the first time. Matt, your straight-to-DVD pick of the week. I wanted to go with Burying the X because it stars 3 of the hottest people in Hollywood. Anton Yelchin, Ashley Greene, and Alexandra Daddario. 2 of them hotter, I think, for different reasons than Anton Yelchin. But I decided to go with, I think, because the title alone really nailed it for me, and I went with Three-Headed Shark Attack.
All right.
Now, I feel like a title that I don't really have to explain anything. But I'm going to tell you, because the world's greatest killing machine is 3 times as deadly now when a mutated shark threatens a cruise ship. It's my favorite part. As a shark eats its way from one end of the ship to the next. I just love the idea of seeing the shark kind of just bouncing around from level to level as it goes across this cruise ship. The passengers quickly discover that 3 heads are more difficult than kill just one.
Wow.
Now, I'm going to say that's not correct. I'm thinking
so?
If you cut one of the shark's heads off, that it's going to bleed out and your problem's pretty much going to be solved.
Yeah, there's more to go after. I agree with you. That's false advertising. I'm never watching this film.
All I can think of is if you cut off one and it cauterizes the wound right away.
With like a lightsaber or something?
Yeah, exactly. But I don't anticipate seeing that happening.
No.
All right. So your streaming pick of the week, I'm going to go with, I think we've mentioned it before, but it ties into The Salvation, Mads Mikkelsen, The Hunt. It's a Danish drama thriller. Mads Mikkelsen plays a guy who, I think he volunteers at a children's center or teaches there. I can't remember what it is. And a young girl accuses him of molesting her. And just everything that happens to him as it unwinds. Did he do it? Did he not? And just how his life just spirals out of control afterwards. It resolves the question of whether he did it or not rather quickly, and then it deals with the aftermath of that for the second half of the film, which is just as riveting. So if you don't mind reading The Hunt on Netflix, I can't recommend it enough. I don't know if I'd watch it with the kids.
Okay. Good to know.
Do you have any news for us this week?
I have a ton of news.
Oh, good Lord.
Oh, good Lord. All right, here we go. I'll try and make it fast here. So, Channing Tatum has officially signed on as Gambit. So there was a bit of a kerfuffle a few days ago that he had dropped out of the film or was banished from the film. But apparently that turns out not to be true, that he is going to be Gambit, and it should start filming right away, except for a fall 2016 release. So that is freaking quick.
I don't care.
No?
I don't care. Granted, we have the Tatum line, which if you're not familiar on this show, it's an actor we've previously despised who does something where we like him. So if an actor crosses the Tatum line, he is now in our good graces. I'm looking at you, Jay Courtney. See what you can do about that. So I'm on the Tatum camp, but I think the problem is I don't give a crap about Gambit. It's not it's post my involvement in comic books.
Right.
So I never really got into it. I'm curious about Tatum pulling off the New Orleans Cajun accent. I don't think that's really going to happen.
Right.
And it may be worth seeing just for that. I don't know. But I just don't care. I don't care. And I don't know what's going to happen with this film. I don't know if Marvel and Fox are going to still try and duke it out so Marvel can pull the X-Men in under their umbrella. I don't know why they would, but maybe this Fantastic Four thing. Well, we'll talk about that later. In what are the odds? But I got to tell you, I don't care. I don't care.
Yeah, see, I mean, since I'm decades younger than you, I mean, Gambit was a very popular character when I was growing up reading comic books, and I liked Gambit, but the character really just hasn't aged well.
That costume is ridiculous.
Yeah, it is.
That thing screams 90s superheroes.
It does, and the whole gimmick and I just cringe at hearing somebody try and put on a Cajun accent. It's just it's like the Boston accent. You really don't need to listen to it that much because it's there, but nobody wants to listen to it. I don't know. And what's really worrisome to me, which we'll get to a little bit later also, is, since Wolverine is wrapping up, I think they're trying to position Gambit as kind of like their new Wolverine, which
absolutely not.
I think is going to be a bit of a mistake. It's going to crash and burn.
There's no way. He just doesn't have the fan. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't see Gambit having the fan appeal. I don't see. Has there been like legendary limited series in the comic world starring Gambit?
Not that I can think of. No.
Now I didn't mind his portrayal in X-Men Origins Wolverine. I thought that actually, like, if that's how Gambit's going to be, but that's not how it's going to be, right? Listen, basically, you can't do the costume, and we know they're not going to.
Right.
They're not going to do that costume. So, yeah, just if part of me wishes they would. I would love to see that, but it's.
I don't even know how you would get into that costume because it's literally one solid piece with like a head sock. I don't even understand how he gets that thing on.
And a trench coat. Don't forget
the trench coat. Yes, but that's easy.
And his power basically is what? You can take inanimate objects and then transfer kinetic energy into them, throw them, and they explode. Is that basically?
Yeah, it's basically he turns the potential energy that's into an object into kinetic energy, and basically they explode. That's why he uses small things like cards, because they don't have a ton of potential energy. But if you use something huge, I don't know, like a bowling ball or something, you could level a building because there's so much potential energy in it.
I'm not buying it.
Well, I'm just telling you what it is. I'm not saying I believe it more than you do.
I have no problems with heat vision and flying.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's standard stuff. Being invulnerable, that's okay. Running the speed of light somehow, hey, that's fine. But
I think my issue is more with the bowling ball having enough energy to take down, because they're not that much. I'm like, how big are your bowling balls, Matt, that you think they're that much larger than a playing card?
Well, in the sense that
the size of like a tire.
Well, I mean, like in a sense, think of it this way. I guess if you stood at the top of a building and you threw a playing card off the top of the building, it would just kind of flutter down and it wouldn't do any damage. If you threw a bowling ball off the top of the building, it could conceivably go through a car, and that's just on its own. So obviously it has more energy potential in it than a playing card would have.
I hate to point out that you're wrong, but the way gravity works, Matt, is if you drop like a playing card or a feather or a bowling ball, they'll both hit the ground at the exact same time.
Yes, you're right, but they will.
I'm not right, because they'll. Anyway, all right. I just wanted to sound arrogant and wrong. Okay. Again, I don't care. So let's move on.
Okay. Relativity Media has filed for bankruptcy, leaving in doubt many of their films. So, yep, they have filed for bankruptcy. They've been so this really puts into. I know they have a couple completed films. One of which is The Bronze, which is, I guess, has gotten a lot of good critical buzz. Stars Melissa Rauch as kind of like a Tanya Harding-esque ex-gymnast, and something called an action film called Autobahn, which now obviously, if they're in bankruptcy, they may be forced to sell those off. And they're also now puts in jeopardy their Crow. Their new Crow film that they had the rights to. They may be forced to sell off the rights to the Crow as part of their bankruptcy restructuring.
Okay.
So,
has there been a good Crow film for 20 years? I don't think so. Is that really?
Well, no, there hasn't. But I mean, I guess it doesn't mean that it's impossible. And now, I guess if you're a fan of the Crow, if you're looking forward to it, now you've kind of pushed everything back into limbo again. Instead of it being in pre-production and all that, it has the potential to be shut down, sold to somebody else, and then languish in development hell for another decade.
So we can't grab Edward Furlong for another Crow sequel? What are we talking
I think
about?
they're gonna try. I think they're gonna try and do something a little more high class.
Yeah. Okay.
Back going.
Fine. Whatever. I don't. I feel like I don't care. I'm trying to think of what the properties of Relativity Media are. 60 Oscar nominations. Huh? I'm sure they've had some good stuff. Let's see here. Yeah, Season of the Witch, the Nick Cage film. Well, that's a great one. Yeah, what we wouldn't want to lose something like that. Shark Night 3D. Woo! Immortals. Wow. Yeah, I can't imagine why they went into bankruptcy. Movie 43. They did Movie 43. Let them go. Let them go.
Well, yeah, but they also did 21 Jump Street remake. They did The Fighter.
I don't think anything can make up for Movie 43. I see Oculus, which is a pretty good horror film on here, but I'm sorry, Movie 43 still gets me angry.
That's just everything.
Well,
you're the dumbass who went and saw it. They're the Fast and Furious company.
Oh, are they?
Yes.
How can they be bankrupt then?
I don't know. It doesn't look, now looking at this though, it doesn't look like they have what is it called? Furious 7. The last one they had was Fast and Furious 6.
There's a lot of bad films here for the last 2 years from them. That's why they're in trouble. Wow, a lot of bad films.
Yeah, but see, and that's the thing. It looks like they have a few temples that made probably a decent amount of money, like the Fast and Furious movies, the Bourne Legacy. That's a terrible movie. Les Miserables.
Haywire was okay.
The 5-Year Engagement. I like that, even though it didn't make a lot of money.
Take Me Home Tonight. Not terribly good. The Warriors Away. Is there? Yeah, no, this is not. Yeah, no, I think it's time to let him go.
You think so?
Movie 43 is enough. I don't care if you. I don't care if you
produce Cowboys and Aliens too. Ugh.
I don't care if you produce The Godfather Part 2. If you're going to put out stuff like Movie 43, you need to go down, and we'll find a different distributor.
Yeah. Cowboys and Aliens, Movie 43, Battle of Los Angeles. God, those are some terrible movies. They've got, basically they did, yeah, so the really respectable ones are, I guess, Les Miserables. They made Brides, The Fighter, and The Social Network.
Those are all good. Talladega Nights.
Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Oh, I'm starting to rethink things.
So they
come on.
Yeah, I know. Well, it seems like for every 5 disasters they made, they managed to make one good movie, which I don't know if it's a good ratio or not. But they did the Wolfman remake. God, that was bad. Yeah, they did. They did Zombieland though. They did A Serious Man, which I really liked.
Oh, The World's End.
Yep. God, that's crazy.
That's tough. All right. All right. You know what? No.
Movie 43 was it for you? That did
That's
it.
Enough.
Yeah,
that is enough. All these other films would have been made someplace else.
That's very true. Michael Moore has secretly completed his next film and will premiere it at the Toronto International Film Festival in September. It's going to be called Where to Invade Next. 3 guesses what that is about.
Now, why did he secretly complete it? Why secret? Is there people after him?
No, I don't think that. I think he just wanted to do it. I mean, the way I took the articles that I read about it is that he just kind of wanted to do it under the radar. He didn't want, a lot of, stuff to get out there from like his enemies and the media, as it were, to kind of hound him about the film and what he's doing. So I think he just kind of went ahead and did it without a lot of fanfare, and he's just going to release it out there so he doesn't have the expectations that like Sicko and Capitalism have. Because you remember when he was making those films after Bowling for Columbine and Fahrenheit 9/11, those were kind of really hyped up, and they were okay, but they weren't like kind of like these cultural watersheds that his other films were. So I think he's probably just doing it. That's the way I viewed it. He was just doing it because he could just make a film and not have to worry about expectations going into it.
It's possibly true. I don't know. I'm concerned more if it's like an M. Night Shyamalan thing where it's more because of diminishing returns. We're just going to kind of keep chugging along and then surprise everybody with a film and then see if we can actually pique some interest. But it's maybe secretly means nobody cared.
Right.
So I don't know. Listen, I don't know. We don't get into politics around here because we don't want to alienate anybody. So I'm not against him for any particular reason either way, but I don't know. I don't know. I haven't. You know what though? I should say I haven't seen his last few films. I saw Roger and Me. I saw Fahrenheit 9/11. I didn't see any of the other ones, so I can't. I guess I can't really say.
Yeah, I've seen all of his films. I mean, they're okay. I mean, obviously, he's definitely has an agenda, and he's not very reliable all the time as far as what he's trying to push. But I always watch them. They're always at least interesting films.
Fair enough. You know what I like documentary-wise, and I guess this may reveal my leanings. If you haven't seen it, Inequality for All, the Robert Reich film that's on Netflix right now.
Okay.
That's that documentary. It's really good and really entertaining. So, yeah, I actually really enjoyed that one.
Okay.
What else?
Let's see. Let's see. I've got, like I said, I got a lot. So Robert Eggers, who's directed,
No, go ahead. I'm just making funny faces into the camera. Knock yourself out.
Robert Eggers, he I guess directed a film that got a lot of buzz, a horror film at Sundance called The Witch, although I couldn't really find a trailer for it or anything like that. But he's actually going to remake Nosferatu again. So we'll see how that turns out.
You're going up against, for me, if you're going up against the king, for me, Werner Herzog, with Nosferatu, with Klaus Kinski, you're not going to find a crazier. Listen, if you want to read, if you're not familiar, read into the history of Werner Herzog and Klaus Kinski. You want to talk about crazy? I mean, they almost killed each other once. Literally, almost killed each other.
Yep.
So look into that relation. They made some fantastic classic films, but Kinski's insane.
Yes, he is.
And Herzog's really not that far behind him.
No.
Fitzcarraldo, you're going to make a movie about them dragging a boat over a mountain. Should we use sets? Should we do anything? No, let's actually physically drag a boat over a mountain. That's how crazy Herzog is.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see what that turns out. I hope they. I really enjoyed the silent film version of it, the original. I enjoyed the Werner Herzog remake. So we'll see. Hopefully they do it justice. Mark Hamill has reprised his role as the Joker for the animated version of The Killing Joke. He's actually recorded all of his lines. So I know The Killing Joke is a very it was a very acclaimed one-shot story about the origins of the Joker, but has come under fire as of late because of some of the nastiness that's in it. So I'm kind of interested to see how people are going to take it, because I think a lot of the luster off that story has been lost as views have changed over the past few decades.
That's interesting. Yeah, I've heard about that too. They invert the interpretation of it and how it treats Barbara Gordon, and generally its portrayal of women. So, yeah, I'm still interested to see. I remember being blown away by The Killing Joke. Granted, I must have been like 13 years old when I saw it. It was one of the first mature-ish comic books that I had read.
Yeah.
So, and Brian Boland's absolutely gorgeous artwork. So,
right. And it was really one of the things that kind of transitioned Joker from kind of like that campy villain to kind of like a psychopathic, like somebody you should be scared of kind of character. So I know, and I think a lot of the things that transitioned to that, I think a lot of that, the issues people have with it is the fact that it's not, what he does to Barbara isn't because she's Batgirl, but it's because it's to get at Commissioner Gordon, and he doesn't even really know that she's Batgirl. And I think that's part of the issues with the story, which I can kind of see, but I still think I think it's still one of the better Batman stories out there.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see.
So yeah, I'll be really interested to see how dark they go with it. I mean, because that is a dark ass story. So we'll see.
It is. Yeah, I wonder if they'll do the stuff with Gordon too, the way he's.
So we'll see. Potentially, it's been stated that Disney's been so happy with what Netflix has done with their Marvel properties and will be doing with their Marvel properties and what they've seen, that they've tapped Netflix to do 3 live-action Star Wars universe series to come out in some not too distant future. We don't know what they are, but we know that they're shooting for up to 3, so we'll see what they come up with. Which I don't know, if the Marvel properties continue as good as Daredevil was, I think that's something I'd be interested in seeing. Yeah,
I'm curious to see how they do with Jessica Jones. I'm a big Kristen Ritter fan, so I'm curious what's going to happen with that show. And I guess every 6 months you're going to kick out a Marvel show, a new Marvel season is going to go. And I'm curious to see what happens with the Star Wars stuff, who they're going to focus on. And maybe we'll finally get that Jar Jar Binks sitcom we've all been clamoring for.
What the fans have been clamoring for, exactly.
So we can do a Wookiee show.
Yep.
What else? If you had your druthers, what would it be? Like if you could make the call, what would it be?
If I could make a call about, I really liked a lot of the comics, and I know they've jettisoned a lot of the expanded universe stuff, but I liked kind of a lot of the Old Republic stuff. So I think that'd be interesting if they did like a 100 years, few hundred years before the prequels, kind of like that, like burgeoning empire kind of stuff or Republic stuff. I thought that was pretty interesting. I think they could do probably a pretty good Firefly type show where you follow like a smuggler or something that flies around and gets in kind of like those case of the week things. I think that'd be pretty interesting. I don't know, and maybe something focused on a villain, because I think Star Wars villains are usually much more interesting than their heroes.
It's true. Like Emperor Palpatine After Dark.
Yeah, exactly. What does he do on his off time?
The robe hung up and he's just in the bathtub. He's having a nice
a glass of Chablis like on the thing. Gator's pestering him. Mm-hmm. Grand Moff keeps texting him. Mm-hmm. I think we need to submit a pitch to Netflix here.
Sounds good. Yep. We're gonna be rich yet. Okay. Yep. What else?
And then lastly here, I've got a couple more things, but they're kind of boring. So, but lastly, I know this is I'm sure came as a sad news for you, but Key and Peele has decided to end after the currently airing season.
Diminishing returns.
Yeah.
Since season halfway through, I guess season 2, I would have to say. I still think The Substitute Teacher is the most brilliant thing they did during the entire run of that show.
Yeah.
I still watch it every week. The missus has been disappointed. Nothing's really grabbed her like Jake Quellen. Aaron. Nothing's grabbed her like that since. And they've gotten, interestingly, I didn't really realize, as she pointed out, they've gotten more and more violent.
Have they?
With a lot of the sketches and stuff. They seem to be more, I don't know. But not that I have an issue with it, obviously.
Right.
So, but I still like it every week. I still watch it. I still laugh, which is good, but I don't feel like it hasn't been as strong as the first couple seasons, and I think they know that too.
Right.
I think that's kind of why they're calling it a night here.
Right. Yeah, I'll have to confess, I don't really watch Key and Peele. I mean, I've seen their big skits and I've tried to watch it and get into it, but I'm pretty picky about my sketch comedy. I don't really I like the really good sketch comedy, like your, Chappelle Show or your Mr. Show. Those I really liked, but I just couldn't really get into it. I think it was mediocre most of the time, and I think I'm going out on a limb here, and I'm sure if anybody was listening, that I would get a lot of hate mail for this. But I feel the same way about Amy Schumer. I think she has a decent skit every once in a while, but most of her skits are just kind of middle of the road. Like, they're not that funny. I mean, they're okay, but they're not groundbreaking as everybody makes them out to be. So, I'm pretty picky about my sketch comedy.
I haven't really watched her show. I like her from what I've seen, and I've watched one episode, which is the 12 Angry Men episode, which I thought was brilliant.
Yeah,
I absolutely loved it. And I'm going to talk about Trainwreck probably coming up soon too on another show, since it's been out for a month. Why not catch up? Why not talk about it then? But hers is a show I really want to see, because, like I said, that one 12 Angry Men episode I thought was absolutely brilliant. I laughed throughout that entire thing. So, but that was one long episode. So maybe you're right. Maybe I'll find that it's not as consistent. But you know what? Sketch comedies like that. It's not consistent. No show ever is. I have this theory too about that with Saturday Night Live, and I think it's pretty universal at this point, or I'm stealing it from somebody. But basically, people say, like at SNL, it's just not as good as it used to be. No, it was never really good.
Right.
It just had some good sketches, and you remember those, and then you kind of assimilate that for the whole season.
Right. No, and I think that's true of any sketch comedy. Even though, like you said, the brilliant ones,
Mr. Show, same way. Mr. Show, I think
it was studs. For sure.
But it was universal. I think Mr. Show was pretty universally strong. But you're right. There, especially that first season, I think there's a couple that just don't work.
Right. But I mean, but I think that the key to sketch comedy is that you have more stuff that's, head and shoulders above the bar on any given episode than is kind of middle of the road or kind of just bad. And I think like your Saturday Night Live, Key and Peele, Amy Schumer's show, they just, most of the time it's just middle of the road. Like, it's like, oh, that was amusing, but it's like, you're not going to remember anything about it, in an hour, so.
Yeah. And I don't know, are you like me when it comes to like SNL? Because at the end of the night, the very last sketch of the show is when they do the really weird experimental stuff.
Right.
And I really look forward to that. That seems to be my favorite part half the time.
Yes, like Pageant Talk, which is still one of my favorite skits ever.
Yeah, is that the one with the ex porn stars are selling things, or is that
No, that's the one with Zach Galifianakis as his effeminate Southern character who has a daughter who does
that's
pageants.
That's right. That is a good one too.
Yes.
And when is? Do you know? Because Netflix is doing a Bob and David show.
Yeah, they are. It's supposed to air before the end of the year. So sometime in 2015.
I can't wait to see that because I'm really excited about that. All right, so that's the news for this week. Matt, let me ask you. Let's actually talk now about It's Such a Beautiful Day. It's an animated film. It's actually been out for a couple years. You can watch the whole thing on Netflix. It's made up of 3 separate animated shorts that he kind of combined, edited, or included new material to make 1 hour long, basically, film. As I said, you can watch right now on Netflix. I struggle with quantifying it or explaining it. I don't feel it's basically about this guy as he works his way through his life and perhaps mostly really coming to terms with the fact that he might be dying and all the kind of things that impact him along the way, his memories of his childhood, and then basically just coming to terms with what's going to happen to him. Matt, I found this film heartbreaking, dark, and achingly funny.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very dry, and I think everything kind of comes together. I think why it works so well, why it comes together so perfectly is the story is really interesting, and it keeps you involved. The animation is so simple. It's stick figures, basically. Basically, all it is stick figures. But it's hilarious at times. And then also, the narration is delivered in this kind of just soft, kind of deadpan way that just nails the jokes over and over again, and yet dealing with some, I think, really deep philosophical subjects at times as well. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. I'm so happy that we got to see this. So I don't know. What did you think?
Yeah, this was a film created by Don Hertzfeldt, who I'm actually a really big fan of, and his probably most famous work up to this point, and probably will still remain to be his famous work, is the short, which I believe he won an Oscar for, called Rejected, which is where he supposedly made a series of insane cartoons for something called the Family Learning Channel. And if you haven't seen it, you can watch it on YouTube right now, and it's about 10-15 minutes, and it is amazing. But this definitely, that's really what drove me to wanting to see this, because I like his films. But when I watch this, I'm 100% on board with you. I mean, he has this kind of absurdist sense of humor, but as the film kind of goes along, there's kind of this undercurrent of like melancholy and sadness, and he just kind of punches you with these things. Like, and what I loved so much about it was, in 1 second he'll be making a joke, and then 2 minutes later he's going back to that same character he made a joke about and kind of explaining to you why it's kind of a tragic thing. Like the thing about like the wild man sticking out. I thought that was funny when the wild man came out of nowhere and started being crazy, but then it talked about how it was like an unwanted child that was abandoned in the wilderness, and that's why he grew up the way he was, and he died dreaming of the moon, which I thought was just heartbreaking imagery. That kind of stuff is just throughout the entire thing. It's really
Bill's younger brother, with his metal arms, his deformed legs, and then what happens to him. I mean, you're laughing at 1 minute, and the next minute you're like, oh my god.
Yeah, what did I just laugh at? I think it's absolutely brilliant the way he kind of pulls on those emotions, and I think it's something that I'll probably go back to many times in the years to come. I mean, if this ever comes out on DVD, I'll probably buy it, even though I can still watch it on Netflix whenever I want to.
Yeah, no, it's like I said, I thought it's absolutely brilliant. But when I was watching it, one thing kept popping back into my head, and then got me angry about you. It's because you really like this.
Yeah,
you recommended that we talk about it, and when I was watching this, all I could think of was My Winnipeg, which you did not like.
I think part of my issue, and maybe I'll watch My Winnipeg again and give it a better doubt, but I think part of this is the animation style kind of lends some absurdity to it, and it's a lot shorter. It's a lot shorter and tighter than My Winnipeg, and it's just kind of like, it kind of just puts you out there and lets it kind of stand on its own merits. I guess I can see that. So I'm sorry, but you're right. I did like this better.
If you're not familiar with My Winnipeg, it's from Guy Madden. It's a fake documentary about his youth growing up in Winnipeg, and I think it's absolutely brilliant. It's one of my favorite films. Criterion just released it on Blu-ray like a couple months ago. So if you haven't seen My Winnipeg, I can't recommend it enough. It's got this very dreamlike quality as he recounts his growing up, and he hires. Part of the thing is that he hires actors to portray his family, so he can relive the moments that made him who he is. I don't know. I've always loved that film. So, and it kind of has that same kind of quality to it. So. All right. So if you've seen it's Such a Beautiful Day, shoot us an email, feedback@thefirstrun.com. Obviously, we both really enjoyed it, and you should definitely watch it. I think it's family viewing. I really think it is. It's not only is it funny and hilarious, but it actually gets you thinking, especially when Bill comes to his inevitable end, when he accepts his fate and everything that kind of he goes through and happens to him. I think it may spark some interesting conversations as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it definitely makes you think about your own mortality, not necessarily in a scary way, but in a good way too. So I mean, it's definitely a film that makes you think, and it's only an hour long, so it's not a huge investment in your time.
Yeah, definitely. So and it's on Netflix streaming right now, so check it out tonight. Matt, what are the odds? If you're not familiar, what are the odds? This is our game where we assign Vegas-like odds to something happening or not happening. One of the great things about this, we've been doing this for years now. I have notebooks filled with what are the odds, 80% chance that Superman Returns wins an Academy Award, or whatever the case may be. And at no point have we ever gone back to see if any of these things have come true or not. I really should do that at some point. Just go through the books and see if we can find out how accurate we actually were. I won't, but I probably should do it.
But I mean, it makes us the appropriate talking head, because we're just making decisions and predictions out of our ass and then never going back to see if we actually are right.
Mm-hmm. And really, isn't that what this is all about?
It really is.
So, Matt, what are the odds a horror film gets a Best Picture nod? It's happened once with The Exorcist in 1973. What are the odds it ever happens again?
I'd say it's pretty low. I'd say 5%. I would say that, genre films in general, they don't really get any kind of love from the Academy. The Academy is all about serious films, like period pieces and biopics. And, the critics and even us, we gush about some of these films, but, they don't stay culturally relevant for a really long time. I mean, like something like The English Patient, nobody ever watches that anymore. Nobody's ever really talking about that anymore, but people are still talking about something like The Matrix, which would never have been nominated from around that same time period. So, I think The Exorcist is the exception of the rules, because it took itself so seriously, and the fact that it is about, demons and religion, and the fact that, there's a contingent of billions of people who think that stuff, could happen and is real, kind of lent it a gravity that you won't probably get out of something else that's any kind of horror film, or really even any other genre films.
Yeah, it bothers me too about the genre thing. The fact that, Dark Knight didn't win, or it wasn't even nominated, right, for Best Picture that year?
I don't think so.
And that is, for me, it's the zeitgeist of comic book films. For me, is the Dark Knight. It's so. Yeah, I don't know. You said 5%. I'm going to be a little more confident about that. I'm going to go up to 10.
Okay.
Not much, but I still feel that maybe the conditions could come together. Say Spielberg finally does his alien invasion film instead of E.T., which he did do. But say he finally does it, I think then if you pulled the right people together, you give me like Spielberg directed, Clooney, all the right people, Jessica Chastain maybe, I don't know. You get them in, then I think the odds are, it's possible. It's possible. But
so you get nominated. I mean, it's impossible that it'll win, but it may even get nominated. Right?
I'm just looking for a nod, Best Picture nomination.
Right.
So
yeah, it's tough, man. I think what's the last genre film that I can remember winning was Return of the King. It was Lord of the Rings but that was kind of like for the whole thing. I mean,
yeah, that was a cumulative kind of such a great thing for 3 films.
Yeah,
interesting. All right, what do you got?
All right, so as we alluded to earlier in the show, Hugh Jackman is bowing out as Wolverine. Wolverine 3, the last standalone movie, will be X-Men Apocalypse, and then I think Wolverine 3 are going to be the last time he'll appear as the Wolverine character. So, what are the odds that the last Wolverine movie is Old Man Logan?
Oh, I'm gonna go like 75% on that. I think isn't that the way they're going? Is they're going with him as an older guy?
Well, that's the rumor. That's what people think that it should be, and I think he's even stated that he think it would be a cool idea if they did it as Old Man Logan. And just for everybody who may not know, Old Man Logan takes place in a far off future where Wolverine is an old man and he has a family, and basically they live in this post-apocalyptic wasteland where superheroes are pretty much dead, and he goes on a mission with Hawkeye to get something back from the Hulk, who is like this cannibalistic warlord in this alternate future. So it's really pretty dark, and it has a lot of characters that they don't have access to. So I'd be kind of curious to see, even how they could pull it off. If that's the way.
Oh, I apologize. I thought I wasn't familiar with that series. I thought we were just going with him as an older guy.
Yeah,
I realized there was a whole plot for that.
Yeah,
so then I'm gonna drop that down to like 25%. Then I think just the like you said, they don't have access to the Hulk. They don't have access to Hawkeye. Maybe they could insert other people into those roles from their universe, but no, I thought so. Yeah, no, I'm gonna drop that down to 25%. Maybe they could work it out. But if you're telling me we're gonna do like an older version of him, just to satisfy the fact that Hugh Jackman's probably almost 50 at this point,
yeah,
then I would say yes. But if you're gonna give me that version, no. In fact, I may even go. Hell, I'm gonna go lower. I'm gonna go 15%. I think it's no.
Okay.
There's too many obstacles in the way.
Yeah, I think they will. I think I'm gonna go back to your original point. I'm gonna say 25%. I think they'll try and do some like the Old Man Logan storyline, but it'll be so different that it'll be almost in name only, and you'll be able to see some of the kind of themes of it. But I don't think they're going to stay very true to that story, just because of the rights issues that they have, which they just are not going to have access to unless they want to go and try and make nice with with Marvel, which would obviously involve a give and take on their part, which I don't know if they're going to do. And just by the sheer fact, this thing was written by Mark Millar, who's the same guy who wrote Kick-Ass, and it's in that same kind of out there, hyper violent, incredibly weird kind of a storyline. If you haven't read Old Man Logan, check it out just for the insanity of it. But yeah, it's definitely something I think they would really have a tough time adapting.
Yeah, no. I ever sit back too and think about what happened if Doug Ray Scott didn't have to go back for reshoots for Mission Impossible 2.
Yeah,
because he was originally cast as Wolverine. How different things might be.
Yeah, seriously.
I don't think I don't look at Doug Ray Scott. He doesn't have the je ne sais quoi, I don't quite know what that Hugh Jackman does. He just doesn't. And I can't imagine a world where somebody else was playing Wolverine except for Hugh Jackman. So it's interesting. All right, Matt, let me ask you, what are the odds? And we're building up to this. They're coming out next year, 2017. Batman versus Superman is the beginning of really the DC cinematic universe, is where we're really going to start to expand things. Now, initially, my film in this was going to be a Justice League, because it's Justice League Part 1 and 2 are going to happen in the next 3 years.
Right.
But I didn't think that was fair for comparison, and I'll explain why. So first off, let me give you a question. What are the odds that Batman vs. Superman eclipses the Avengers in box office receipts?
Ooh, that's tough.
I thought it made sense to do Justice League, but then I thought, well, that's going to, I think, more compare to Infinity Gauntlet or Infinity War, because that's a two-parter as well, and the universes are established by then. So That's why I'm going to go Superman versus Batman versus Avengers. Now, just to give you, I'm going to give you some numbers because this may help you.
Okay, good. I was looking up numbers as we spoke, so please do.
Avengers domestically was $623,357,910. That's domestic. Add in another $896 million for foreign, for a total of over $1.5 billion.
Right.
Now, I want to think. I think I want to just. I don't know if it makes sense to stick to just domestic or not. So let's just stick with domestic for now, because we have more control over that. So let's say 623,357.
Right.
And adjusted, right? Because this is next year. I'm not sure what the inflation adjustment's in, but what do you think we should go up to? Like 625, maybe?
Okay.
I think that's fair. So what do you think? 625 million. It's got to beat that.
Yeah. No, can it beat 625 million?
What are the odds?
Domestically, I'm gonna say 40%. And this is why I say that. So, Man of Steel did about half of that. It did about $291 million domestically. And the overall worldwide take was around 668 million, or 668 million. So I'm gonna say that as much as interested as people are in seeing Dawn of Justice and all this, I just think that I think what Avengers had going for it is it has a good solid groundwork of some films that were either really good or pretty good. And I think Avengers benefited a lot from word of mouth by people having a lot of fun with it. I think you're going to get the comic book hardcore people who are going to go the opening weekend. It's going to do great the opening weekend. But if they don't think it's fun and it doesn't get a lot of good buzz, then I think it's going to taper off quickly. And I think that's going to be the challenge with it.
Yeah, you know what? I think I agree entirely with that analysis. And from everything we've seen from Snyder and Goyer and the crew, it's not going to be fun.
Yeah.
And I think that's, again, as we've talked about it many times, that is a major, major mistake. So we'll see. So you say 40% that it eclipses. I'm going to go, I don't want to go over, so I'm going to go 39%. How do you like that?
Okay.
Also, I always do round numbers. I got to get out of that.
Yeah.
So, 39% is, I think I wanted to because I'm a DC guy, but
I know.
I'm telling you, I think it's going to be too damn dour to pull in repeat viewings or get that word of mouth buzz that people are going to be like, oh my God, it's so great.
Right. And, and you've also got the additional danger of, you're starting to get rumblings of comic book movie fatigue. And Avengers, I think, has dropped down to number 4. I think in all-time gross, I think Jurassic World has surpassed it at this point, which is a tragedy. And Ant-Man's doing pretty well, but I mean, it hasn't, set the world on fire like I think they were hoping it to. So we'll see.
All right. What do you got?
All right, so let's stick with our Dawn of Justice thing here. So Jenna Malone, who was in show favorite Sucker Punch. And
she's in Tampa this week.
Is she?
For the Comic-Con, yep. I think she's there today.
Oh, very nice. She has been cast, but nobody knows who she's been cast as. Now, Latino Review has it on, has 3 sources saying that she is going to play Barbara Gordon. So with the sheer amount of people that are actually stuffed into this film, what are the odds that we're going to get the Batgirl version of Barbara Gordon in this film?
Oh, no. If I have to, I'm going to go 5% on that. I think she's just going to be introduced as Barbara Gordon.
Civilian?
Yeah, and maybe, and I don't, this doesn't count. If she encounters Batman, looks up at him and tilts her head and goes, huh. That doesn't count. So I'm going to go 5% that actually happens.
That she is Batgirl
in this film, yeah.
In this film, yeah. So I don't know if we'll see her as Batgirl in this film, but I think I'm going to say 15% chance that it'll be implied or even talked about that she's Batgirl. And the only reason I think that is because, we've seen through the trailer that he had a Robin at one point and Robin's dead. Or he's the Joker, potentially, from
that's the rumor. That's right.
Rumor, yes, that he is actually, that Jared Leto is Jason Todd. But it also brings in the whole question of, okay, so if he's Jason Todd, then where's Dick Grayson? Where's Tim Drake in this long line of Robins or whatever? But the idea is that the other rumor in this is that Jim Gordon is dead in this film, has already passed away, so that Barbara is like his sidekick as Batgirl, or was like under his wing as their shared, dead parent kind of thing, and that she is a Batgirl. But you won't necessarily see her as Batgirl in this film. So I'm going to say 15%. What'll be interesting though is to see if they bring her around as Oracle, because I personally think that she's a much more interesting character as Oracle than she is as Batgirl.
I would agree, but you're wrong. There's no way it's 15. That's absolutely no way. Okay. Matt, what are the odds? Let me start out. Transformers 5 is currently being written right now.
All right.
What are the odds Transformers 5 gets a higher Rotten Tomatoes score than the highest Transformers film, which is the first one, at 57%?
I'm going to say 1%. Those movies are so terrible. Like I didn't see the first Transformer movie in the theaters, and when it came out on Blu-ray, I was like, I'm gonna like this. I like giant robots. I like the Transformers. This is gonna be good. I blind bought the thing, and I was very upset with myself, and that's why I never blind buy things, because I'm very cautious with these things. I literally haven't seen one since the second one, because the second one was so friggin' terrible, and I've heard nothing but bad things about 3 and 4. So 1% that it's even going to be able to get up to the faint praise of over 50% of people liking it.
Those films are really, I've seen every one in the theater. I don't know why. I just hate myself, I think, is what it is, because those are really, really horrible films.
You're suffering for the show. You're suffering for your art.
That's what it is. So better than 47% or 57%. Oh, it's 57? Oh, hell no. Yeah. That's 0. I'm not even going to give it a percentage. I thought it was 47 in my head. 57? There's no way. No way. No way it eclipses 57%. I don't care if Steven Spielberg is directing at this time, starring George Clooney. Again, it's not happening.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad.
At least the last one wasn't like racist. Oh, it still kills me about them too. Skids and mud flaps, I think is what they were. Yeah. Or the portrayal of Megan Fox when she's leaning over the motorcycle to fix it. So
in her short shorts. That's hilarious. I know. Just bad.
Michael Bay. You're putting back women's rights years with every film you put out. All right.
Well, I'm glad we're putting that on Michael Bay, because he's the right person to put that onto, right?
For that film, for that scene. So, all right, do you have any more?
No, I don't.
I got one more just for the heck of it.
Okay.
Matt, what are the odds Fantastic Four isn't going to be as bad as we all think it's going to be? They've embargoed the reviews. Here's the thing. They've embargoed the reviews. If you're an online reviewer, you can post your review the day before. If you're print can't do anything till the day of. And here's my favorite part. They canceled the 3D conversion.
Oh, man.
Because basically I think it's not worth the expense.
Right.
Of doing the 3D conversion.
It's not going to get that money back, right?
Yeah. What's that tell you?
I think it's 0%. I think this movie looks like a train wreck, and it's the same problem with DC. Like, who is this? This is Fox, right? 20th Century Fox. Mm-hmm. They haven't learned anything from Marvel. The thing about this, especially with somebody like the Fantastic Four are goofy. They are like cosmic and stupid. They're kind of like the Flash insofar as their villains are ridiculous, and it's got to be fun.
Hey, let's pump the brakes on Flash.
But the Flash is the best parts about it is that it is so ridiculous. That's why it's so much fun. I have nothing against that. It's just the fact that they're taking it super seriously. I don't like the fact that they went with the ultimate version of Fantastic Four and they went young. I like them as older people because you get that kind of family dynamic. I just think it's going to be a train wreck. It's just going to be bad. I'm going to go with it. I'm going 0%. I don't think there's any way that this thing is going to be I think it's going to be as bad as we think it is.
I think what it is they get reinforced by the fact that the last couple X-Men films, or at least should say First Class and then Days of Future Past, did reasonably well. I mean, they were pretty successful movies. So they think, see, we got this thing down. We can just keep churning this stuff out. The hell with Disney and Marvel. We don't need them. Right. And they're incredibly wrong. Right. Maybe Apocalypse is going to be great. I don't know. But I think part of it, too, is the Fantastic Four are not interesting characters.
Right.
It's just not an interesting thing. There's no demand for them. I really don't think there is. When you were a kid, I don't know anybody who was huge fans of the Fantastic Four when they were kids. I don't know if it's marketed well, but it's just not.
Fantastic Four, I mean, this is going to sound ageist here, but Fantastic Four is definitely superheroes for older folks. I mean, I think they were a big deal in the 60s, and they really kicked off the Marvel kind of silver age for them, but they canceled the series, even in comics. I mean, the character's still around, but they don't have a standalone comic anymore because the readership was so low. People today are just not reading the Fantastic Four. And I don't think, Fox has kind of the background and the respect for the material to be able to handle it. I mean, Marvel obviously has a real affection for them because they're some of their first characters, but I think they would know what to do with them more than Fox would. And the thing that I gotta stress about any kind of Fox movie, all of their super movies, the only ones that were any good, were the ones directed by Bryan Singer. I was not a big fan of First Class. I didn't think it was very good at all. I thought it was middling at best. I think the only ones I've really liked are the ones that Bryan Singer has had a hand in. I mean, maybe it's more him than it is any of the characters or any of that stuff.
That's an interesting point. I think you might be on the right track with that. So for me, you gave it 0%. It's not as bad as we all think it is. Well, I think it's going to be the nadir of 20th Century Fox films. I'm including the first two Fantastic Four movies. So can it be that bad? No. So I'm going to go 3% that it's not as bad as I think.
Way to hedge your bets.
That's right.
But at least the second Fantastic Four film had Silver Surfer going for it. He looked pretty cool.
That's true. I'm wondering if our review there is going to go on the poster.
Yeah.
3% chance that it's not horrible.
Well, when we actually review it, it'll be like, I think at best we'll sum it up something like, not as bad as I thought it was going to be.
That's exactly right. It was better than putting my hand in a blender. All right, so that's What Are the Odds. What do you think? Were we off? Do you have any subjects for us to tackle? And What Are the Odds? Shoot us an email, feedback@thefirstrun.com. Next week, Matt, I don't know if you can get out to the theaters. I think you're going to have to. Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, reviews up through the roof. I'm really excited to go check this out. I'm going to be checking it out this week, probably Tuesday. I cannot wait to see it. I watched the first one again last week because I haven't seen it probably since it came out. I remember not liking it, but it's eased up. I enjoyed it more, though. The final confrontation in the tunnel on the train with the helicopter is still just insane in its stupidity. But it's not as bad as I remember. I'm curious about watching Mission Impossible 2 again. I bet you that one's really not going to hold up at all.
Right.
If it really even did. Maybe I'll just watch 3 again because I love Philip Seymour Hoffman so much in that movie. Or really, just watch Ghost Protocol because that thing is freaking awesome.
Yeah, they are definitely. This is a series of films that seem to keep getting better and better as they go along, which I appreciate. I think I wish more franchises would take the route of that one and Fast and Furious, where they just seem to get better as opposed to getting worse. So
exactly. So that's what's up for next week. In the meantime, check us out on YouTube. You can watch the live stream of the show. We're also on Facebook, Twitter. Occasionally we show up on Instagram and other places as well. And then finally, a melancholy happy trails this week. Roddy Piper passed away the other day, 51 years old, of a heart attack. One of my all-time favorite performances, or at least my favorite line in the history of cinema, is uttered in They Live. You're going to hear it at the end of this show. Also, if you want to see one of the greatest fight scenes ever, do a YouTube search for the They Live. Listen, I just think I've always bothered me that he didn't become a bigger star. I think They Live, for all its corniness, is a lot of fun. And I really think I don't know. It always bothered me because I think he could have been in that whole Arnold thing, that 80s action, almost genre B movie thing. And he could have been really a big star in that. And it just never happened.
Right.
So anyway, what was his character on It's Always Sunny? Mad Dog something? I can't remember. We've got a couple really funny turns on It's Always Sunny.
Yeah.
For everything I've read and seen, just an all-around great guy. And I'm going to watch They Live again this week just for the heck of it because, it's just sad to hear that. So anyway, hopefully he's up in the big sky right now, chewing some bubblegum and kicking some ass. So that's the first run for this week, everybody. Thanks for listening and or watching. And we'll take an extended break, and we'll see you all in a week.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.